Hey there, movie fans. Time for a brand new FYC. We are in the heat of award season. We have had some critics groups weigh in and some nominations from some other award shows. And I think the awards race is starting to take shape. So, for the first time on this round of FYC, we are going to redo a category that we've already done. And of course, it is the big one. It is Best Picture. Joining me, as always, on FYC is the amazing Perri Nemiroff and the mighty Jeff Snyder. Are you both ready to take another deep dive into our nominations predictions for Best Picture? Who's excited? Who's excited? All right.
I'm excited. I don't know how ready I am.
Well, listen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through our list that we chose back on September 29th. So it's now December 15th. And I would say like a lot of these predictions that we had before are still here. Some of them are not. So number one, this is not in any order, but this is just the top 10 nominations for Best Picture that we chose in September are Top Gun: Maverick, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Banshees of Inisherin, Tar, moving on to Women Talking, Avatar: The Way of Water, Babylon, The Whale, and She Said. Yeah. The look on Perri's face says, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be our list this time around.
What you said earlier when we were prepping is exactly what I think is going to happen, where like the beginning sounds about right. And then I'm like, the end is kind of messy now.
Well, the end is messy, but we've been saying on every show that we're going to come back and revisit these categories, and Best Picture is the first of the categories that we're revisiting. And by the way, this is not the last time that we're going to predict the nominations for Best Picture. This is only the second time. So let's start with the top of the list here that we have. Perri, Top Gun stays on the list.
100% stays on the list. And I believe when we last went over this category, that was maybe my like number 2, 3, or 4. I can't fully remember. I've changed my Gold Derby a million times. Top Gun right now is my firm number 1.
Yeah, mine too.
I think it is the most likely to get a nomination.
For sure. Jeff, what's your take on Top Gun? And not only Top Gun, but like how likely is it to like maybe even go the distance?
I mean, I think it has a shot. I think there's been a lot of divisive award season titles. Obviously with Avatar being as good as it is, I think that provides some more competition for Top Gun. It stands in its way a little bit, but yeah, Top Gun is certainly one of the top, 3 or 4 contenders. Absolutely.
For sure. So Top Gun, Jeff, I know how you feel about critics groups and some of these other pundits and prognosticators, but it did make the AFI, American Film Institute, list of top 10 films. The National Board of Review, that beacon of credibility for award season, named it their best film of 2022. It got nominated for 6 Critics' Choice Association awards, including Best Actor for Tom Cruise, which I think is awesome. Can't argue with more than $1.6 billion worldwide. This is my number 1 as well. I mean, this is the movie I'm gunning for. See what I did there? Hey now. Hey now.
Clever.
All right. So that's number 1. 2, we had Everything Everywhere All at Once. Jeff, I think it's safe to say that stays.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really, it's coming on strong. I mean, for a while there, people thought it was the front runner. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but, it could pull it off. And I think at the box office helps in that case.
I definitely think so. So, Perri, how likely do you think it might be that Everything Everywhere goes past Top Gun to get the big prize?
If you were to ask me to make a prediction right now, of course, keeping in mind that this could change, I actually think I might pick Everything Everywhere All at Once to actually win. At this point in time, I think Top Gun is most likely to get the nomination, but I see a better long run for Everything Everywhere. And I know it's not a 1-for-1, but 14 nominations at the Critics' Choice Awards. And it's just like every single time I have a conversation with someone about that movie, it's like a different kind of enthusiasm and a respect for how uniquely special that film is. And I've been saying it since the beginning. I think in that movie's case, the buzz for it is only going to go up, 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 and up.
Well, listen, I keep going back and forth between Top Gun and Everything Everywhere like to really take the top prize. And I would love to see Everything Everywhere All at Once take the top prize. I think it has a really, really, really good shot to do so, especially because the voting branch of the Academy Awards has completely changed. Look what happened with Parasite 3 years ago. And now you have a movie like Everything Everywhere, which, could ride that sort of like Gonzo, like, we're the new Academy, we're going to go for something really far out. I think it has a really strong chance, Perri, like you mentioned.
Can I add one more point? And I think, Jeff, I see you shaking your head, but I think you even brought this up. The idea of Avatar: The Way of Water stepping into this race and, in the broadest possible sense, at least, taking a little away from Top Gun Maverick in terms of being a big blockbuster release. That's where I think that Everything Everywhere could sneak in and get some of those more like independent niche. This is a unique kind of support. So maybe Avatar entering the race takes away from Top Gun, but winds up giving Everything Everywhere a boost.
That's a good point. Jeff, what's your take on that?
I think that when we look back in March at this season, we're all going to kind of laugh about how we actually thought Everything Everywhere had a chance.
I would not say that if I were you, Jeff. We had a bet, if you remember, 3 years ago where you were saying sort of the same thing about Parasite.
But Parasite was a more serious film that definitely appealed to older crowds in a way that Everything Everywhere I don't think does. Like it's more frivolous on the surface. It's not to say that there aren't serious themes going on in Everything Everywhere. I cried. I love those talking rocks. But do I think that 60 and 70-year-old men are going to vote for the Talking Rock movie? No.
Well, we'll see. We shall see.
And hot dog fingers. I just don't think that people can love that movie and they can give it all the critics awards. But at the end of the day, is that what we want? Like when we walk into the Dolby Theater to see on the thing, I don't think that it is.
That's what I want.
I'd be happy with that. I'd be very happy with that.
It would make my day, my month, my year to be able to say the movie with hot dog fingers is the best picture at the 2023 Academy Awards.
It'll make every critics day, but the Academy's a little bit more mature than critics.
But see now,
it's not about.
Now, wait a minute. So
it depends how you use the word maturity, I guess.
When we were having the Parasite conversation 3 years ago, I seem to remember, whether it was a conversation that we had or conversations I had with other, entertainment journalists, film reporters, and so on, saying that, older moviegoers aren't going to go for Parasite, and obviously they did. So I think that if they went for Parasite, they'll go for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, it's a very different film. But, there's a real sort of like ambition and a boldness to both of these movies that I think will really put Everything Everywhere, could push it over the edge. And
I think they have absolutely nothing in common besides Asian casts.
Well, I'm just talking about in terms of the scope and the ambition and just doing something different. Obviously,
the movies have scope and ambition, though. Listen, I'm not going to get on board with it, but I respect it.
Okay. All right. I respect that you respect it. Moving on to number 3 that we have, The Fabelmans. Perri, obviously that stays. And the question is for both of you, but starting with you, Perri, is it me or is Fabelmans just not like the front runner, like the one to beat that it was after it won the People's Choice, the top prize at the Toronto Film Festival? Perri.
This was my number 1. Now it's my number 3. I feel the other 2 we've discussed are gaining steam. This is losing it. And there's one other movie I'm going to bring up during today's video that I think lost a lot of steam, and it hurts my heart a little.
Okay. Hold that thought, Jeff.
I will.
Fabelmans, has it, lost a little bit?
I don't think that The Fablemans has lost steam. I think it's playing the waiting game to pick up steam. Okay, I don't think that. I think that they're really waiting until December and January. I think that they know that they were all season long, all year long. They've been positioned as the front runner, right? But you don't want that status right now. This is not the time that you really want front runner status. So I think that they've been, just playing this little game. I get what you when you say it's lost momentum. I just don't think it's really caught fire yet because it's getting all the nominations that it should. It's just that critics aren't flipping for it.
I agree. I think that in the case of Fablemans, they're like, okay, like if you look back to, just bringing this up as an example, but when La La Land won the top choice and then it had to maintain its number 1 position for 6 or 7 months, and then in the end, it lost it at the very last minute. So maybe Universal and the award strategists there are thinking, okay, well, let's just kind of back off on pushing this for a bit. But then, like Jeff points out, at the right time, they're going to kick right back in, and it'll go back up. But I think that Fablemans, just like Everything Everywhere in Top Gun, has a really, really strong chance to win. So of course it stays at number 3 on this list.
I do think there's a big difference between designing your campaign so your movie doesn't peak too soon, and also feeling as though it has fallen out of the conversation. And
yeah,
it's just, when I'm talking to people casually out and about at receptions, that's not the first movie that I often hear about. And it's a little surprising to me because I feel so strongly about it. But also, it did just get 11 Critics' Choice nominations. So
yep.
they're clearly doing something right. I was just expecting there to be a little more noise than there is at this point.
I agree. And also, it also made the top 10 list for the AFI list. All right. Next film on our list here is one that I know Jeff likes a lot, Banshees of Inisherin. I think in other categories that has gone up. And I definitely think it definitely stays on our list for best picture predictions. What do you think, Jeff?
Oh yeah, no, Banshees it's still a strong contender. I mean, Colin Farrell's definitely gained a lot of steam since we last spoke in the best actor race. It's even looking like Barry Keoghan could pick up a nomination. Who knows? That screenplay people love. Martin seems safe for a best director nod. So yeah, I think this is hitting all the boxes that lead to a best picture nomination.
Perri, what's your take on the Banshees?
Totally agree. I think what they're doing right now in terms of like making sure that we're just aware enough, but not too aware that you wind up with this with running the risk of like plummeting in the new year. I think they're playing the game at like a pitch perfect level right now.
Right. No, absolutely. Okay. Number 5 on this list is a film that I think is going up, and it's a movie that I, since September, when we put it on our list, I've seen it 2 more times. And the more I see it, the more brilliant I think it actually is. And that is Todd Field's Tar.
You've seen Tar 3 times?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it got better and better each time I saw it. Things that I picked up that I did not notice the first time. I'm telling you, this is Todd Field's Stanley Kubrick movie. And he made this film after being a sponge and soaking up everything he could, working with the Stanley Kubrick on 1999's Eyes Wide Shut, where he was Nick Nightingale, the piano player. So I think this movie is actually, I'm going to say the word, I think it's brilliant. And I think it deserves to be on this list. And, Perri, what do you think?
I think it deserves to be on this list. I think it likely will be on this list. I have it a little lower down on my list. I think one of my biggest concerns with Tar in terms of Best Picture is that the focus on Cate Blanchett in particular is going to wind up, like overshadowing certain other categories. Although I do think that he's got a good chance for Best Director at this point too.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if the focus on individual awards might bump this down the list a little, but I'm still feeling fairly good about it getting a Best Picture nomination.
Jeff, Tar stays on the list, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't think it's like anything else in this race. I think it's sort of like the purest art film in the mix, and it's just kind of pure Academy bait. So I have a hard time seeing them ignore that movie, even though it is obviously getting, the majority of its write-ups are about Cate.
I mean, look, I wish it did better at the box office, but I did watch it, the second time I saw it, I picked up more stuff. And then like quickly after that, I watched it a third time and I went, yeah, this movie actually is pretty brilliant. So like I said, it's Todd Field's Kubrick movie, and he really got it. All right. Next on this list, Jeff, Women Talking. What's your take?
Yeah, I got to keep it on for now. I just don't see anything making a really strong play. Like, I think at those first 6 movies that we discussed are like locks at this point, and 7 through 10 is where it starts to get a little funky. But I think that there will be enough female Academy members that put Women Talking really highly on their ballot, and I do think it will get in.
Okay, Perri, what about you? Women Talking.
I have Women Talking above Tar. I think this has an even better shot of that. And I think they're both going to wind up getting the nominations, but I think Women Talking has a better chance. And I think that they're also doing exactly what they need to do to play the long game and make sure it goes all the way. I wish this one got even more love at the CCAs. It disappointed me a little bit, and this is going to reveal what some of my ballot looked like, that the only individual acting nomination went to Jessie Buckley, who I think is very deserving. But I was especially disappointed to see Claire Foy not included in that list.
Well, I mean, look, Women Talking, it's like the pick of the litter in terms of trying to pick out the best of the acting performances. They're all great.
That's why it got an ensemble nomination, and I must be pleased with that. But there's a movie that I've watched 3 times, and I'm like surprised that I watched it 3 times at this point. But it's one of those ones that gets better and better, and I see the precision more and more in the performances and the direction and the script as well every single time I watch it.
My ballot for CCA, for the Critics' Choice Association, my number 1 pick for Best Acting Ensemble was Women Talking. So I'm right there with you. Okay, so Jeff, you said that when you get to 7 and lower, it starts to get a little iffy. But number 7 on the list that I have here is a movie that we did put on our list back in September. And we put it on our list sight unseen. We just put it on our list based on the hype and the anticipation. And now that we have all seen Avatar, The Way of Water, Jeff, does Avatar stay, and does it deserve to? And do you think it is a lock for a Best Picture nomination?
Yeah, I do. I think Avatar was one of the 6 that I was referring to. I realized that I had miscounted there. Yeah, I think it's an absolute lock. I think that it'll just be driven by the crafts people. I think the movie turned out really well. It maybe wasn't a home run, but I think most people walked away from it feeling pretty good. Yes, I feel very confident that it's going to get a Best Picture nomination.
Also, the timing of it is people will just have seen it.
Right.
And they'll still be flying high, especially because of the visual spectacle of it all. Perri, what's your take on Avatar? Does it definitely get a nomination? What do you think?
It is part of my definitely getting a nomination group right now. That movie is just like damn dazzling. It is like, I know we keep harping on the technical feat, but I do think that the technical achievement elevates every single element of the movie. And it really makes it like an undeniably fully immersive experience that no matter how you feel about certain elements of it that may not hit that same like awe-inspiring level, it just makes you feel like you've been fully enveloped in another world, and it sends you on your way, basically going like, holy shit, I can't believe what I just experienced. Or at least that's how I felt 2 times while watching it. And bringing up the timing, this movie is going to be absolutely crushing it at the box office for weeks leading up to nominations, because it is, what are they predicting? 175 million opening weekend domestic, and it's got no big blockbuster competition. The legs that it desperately needs to come anywhere close to matching the biggest of the big at the box office, it can have those legs, and I think it's going to have them.
Yeah, absolutely. There is absolutely nothing standing in Avatar's way of box office domination over like the next month and beyond. But I just think it's interesting to point out that as of right now, as of the recording of this episode, that the Rotten Tomatoes score for The Way of Water is exactly the same as the first Avatar at 82%. So criticism then, the criticism now is that visually, yeah, it's great. The narrative structure of it is where it's a little wobbly. And Jeff, I read your review in Los Angeles Magazine, and I agree with it 100%.
Right, so, I said it was on par.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so
Can
Avatar.
I add one more thing in Avatar's favor?
Yeah,
like that. Yet again, they have revolutionized filmmaking. That technology is going to change the game going forward again. And that is another thing about a film that I think Best Picture was kind of made for, to honor and to celebrate. That movie is going to change the industry again.
Well, just worth noting that Avatar did change the industry in terms of the way it was made, but that Goliath movie lost to a David film called The Hurt Locker, which cost pennies compared to Avatar.
Well, think about the idea of Avatar: The Way of Water maybe losing to Everything Everywhere all at once. Like
Exactly.
two completely different forms of VFX. Like one movie that had all the resources all the time in the world, and then these two guys who like led a scrappier team and pulled off this like mind-blowing achievement with a whole lot less.
Okay, then we get to the point on our list where it gets a little iffy. In one film that we did put on our list, again, sight unseen, that now that people have seen it, now that you have seen it, I wonder, Jeff Snyder, does Babylon stay on our list of best picture predictions?
Yes, I say that it does. I liked it. I know it's still we're still under embargo. I can't really review it, but I liked it a lot more than I was expecting. I went in with pretty low expectations. Thought it was going to be a train wreck, and you know what? It seemed like the room was into it as well. I mean, and it's a comedy. Like I don't know that I was necessarily expecting how comedic it was.
Yeah.
The third act gets a little bit more serious, but I do think that with Damien's pedigree and Margot and Brad and just the whole ensemble, and you know, again, the Academy loves old Hollywood stuff and things about them and their history and you know their early beginnings, and I do think that it's going to get in. It's not the strongest year.
All right, Perri, what's your take on Babylon? Does it stay?
I'll admit, maybe I'm just being stubborn, but no, I don't think it's. How is that review embargo still up?
Yeah,
It'll be up probably, I think, after the LA premiere, which is tonight.
Yeah,
to be fair, most of my conversations have been with peers, with other critics, and I've heard some extreme, like I'm not super negative on the movie. I'm middle of the road, teetering negative, and think it could have been a far stronger film. I've heard some very, very negative takes, and I just have a very hard time seeing that movie come out and get, you know, like I know it's not the same for the general viewing public and who winds up voting on the Oscars, but that kind of conversation does wind up influencing a movie's chances. And I just can't see the widest possible audiences fully embracing this 3+ hours where only a certain fraction of it feels like really refined to me.
All right. First of all, I agree with you. It is not a film that I think is going to be universally praised, like let's say La La Land, which of course Damien Chazelle directed and won his Academy Award for directing for. But I also don't think that Tar is a movie for everyone. Yet that is firmly entrenched on our list. So I have now seen Babylon. Don't laugh 3 times. And every time I see this movie, I like it more and more. I know what you're thinking. Like, where the heck did this guy get the
get 9 hours?
9 hours and 9 hours and 24 minutes of my life I spent watching Babylon. And just like with Tar, you know, this is a film that I've grown to like more and more each time I see it. It's a big movie. There's a whole lot of movie there. And I think you need to just kind of, when you see it again, like, okay, I know what to expect. And you're able to like really look at it closer. And I agree, Jeff, it's a comedy, except for the last third. And I the more I see it, the more I love it. And the more I am impressed with it. So I'm keeping it on the list. Jeff's keeping it on the list. Perri is like on the fence about it. I'm just going to pencil it in right now. That could change after we keep going. But the number 9 movie, I'm going to say right now, this is out of here. The Whale does not stay on this list. Jeff?
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't have it on my list. It is proving to be very, very divisive. I still think that, you know, I still think Brendan Fraser and Hong Chow have a real shot.
Absolutely, yes.
I'm not hearing anything about like Aronofsky, and I was hard pressed to put it on the list, so I'm fine taking it off.
Look, I really like the movie a lot, and I love the performances in it. I'm just basing this decision off of like the temperature in the room. Perri, what's your take on The Whale? Does it stay or does it go?
I don't have it on my list. I'll tell you, though, the only thing that made me reconsider that was that it was one of the stronger performances of all the limited releases at the box office. So that was starting to make me rethink it. But I think that's just going to wind up working in the actors' benefit more than anything.
I'll put it this way. I put a movie on that, you know, it was like between this one and The Whale for me, because I know that they're both divisive and they're not really catching on with critics. So it's close, The Whale, but yeah, I didn't include it.
Okay, then the number 10 movie that we predicted back in September is She Said. Perri, does it stay on?
My heart
Says
is
yes.
crumbling. No. This is the movie that I was referring to at the beginning of the episode that seems to have vanished from the conversation. And again, I'll point this out. Critics' Choice and Academy, not a one-for-one comparison. She said, got one nomination from the CCA. One nomination.
What was that?
That's rough. I think it was for the screenplay. I have the list here. 1 second. Yeah, the best adapted screenplay was all it got. I think this deserves to get a Best Picture nomination, but I just see it like not just like fading away, but it seems like it has like fallen off a cliff in terms of the conversation. And man, that's so disappointing to me. I don't have it on my list anymore.
It is a shame. It's a crying shame. I think She Said is a very, very strong movie that should be on this list. But you're right. It just what happened to She Said, Jeff? Well, first of all, Jeff, is She Said on your list?
No, I think Perry's right. It has kind of flatlined this season. And here's the sad truth. I think it makes people uncomfortable. I think people don't want to think about Harvey Weinstein. I don't think people want to grapple with their complicity or what really goes on in this industry. So I thought the film was like the fifth, top 5 film of the year. I thought Maria Schrader knocked it out of the park. But I think Perry's right. It just doesn't have that profile. It's DOA.
Okay. So we have 2 films that we were taking off this list. That means we have 2 open spots, perhaps 3. We'll have to see how that goes. But I'm going to throw this movie into the ring right now as a movie that absolutely deserves to be on this list. I had it on my list in September, but I was overruled. And now the time has come after these last couple months where it deserves to be back on the list. That movie, thank you very much, is Elvis. Elvis goes back on the list. Perri?
All right. Did I tell you guys that I finally watched Elvis?
I think you did, yeah.
Right. So my big takeaways from Elvis is, yes, Austin Butler will get a nomination and he deserves to get a nomination. As far as Best Picture goes, I do think it will get a nomination, but admittedly, I was a little lukewarm on the structure of I did explain this to you. I know I explained this to you, Vance. I was a little lukewarm on the structure of the film overall, in particular, the jumping between the focus on Elvis and the Colonel. And I had a little bit of a tough time fully putting into perspective, like the level of truth in what I was seeing, because it opened with the Colonel and something felt a little strange about that to me. So overall, I wouldn't necessarily vote it in for Best Picture, but I do think like they are pounding that pavement hard. And I do think that campaigning is going to pay off for them. So I think it's going to get in.
So your head is saying yes. Jeff is saying yes, right?
Yeah, I have Elvis in the 8th slot right now, above Babylon and one other movie. So.
Well, I saying this in September. I love this movie. I saw it twice over the summer. And I really, really stand by this film. I think it will get in. And I think it deserves to. And I'm happy. I got a hunk of burning love for this movie and happy to have this on our list. So Elvis right now goes back on the list. So after Elvis, this is where the conversation is going to get a whole lot of fun. A whole lot of shaking going on here. What takes number 10, Jeff?
This is tough. I really had no idea what to go with here. But I'm going to go with my instincts and ride those Brits. And I'm going to say Empire of Light still sneaks in.
No, Jeff.
Fablemans' performance.
Nah,
unless it's something totally left field, like All Quiet on the Western Front, or even Triple R, like something like weird that no one's really expecting. Yeah, I have it at 10.
I don't have it on my list at all, and it's not going on my list. Perri, what's your take?
I want to respect the fact that there are likely people out there that like Empire of Light. So I don't want my shock at Jeff's comment to take away from your enjoyment of that.
I like hearing it.
But no, I don't think Empire of Light has any chance of getting on the, like, it's not being talked about anywhere. I mean, one, Roger Deakins got a CCA nomination. Olivia Colman wasn't even nominated by the critics. I don't think that is actually going to break into very many Academy Awards races.
My eyes can't roll further back in my head with she wasn't picked up and praised by critics.
Jeff, we know how you feel about the critics group.
Jeff, I make this point every year. It's not a 1-for-1. I will fully recognize that. But this entire season is a constant build. So if it's not recognized somewhere, that means it's a little less talk in that movie's favor, which makes it less in, someone's eye line versus something that is very firmly on my best picture list right now, something like Glass Onion, which got 6 CCA nominations, which crushed it during its 1-week theatrical release, which is likely going to be a very hot talking topic when it hits Netflix later this month. And they're campaigning. Everything is working in that movie's favor.
Let me say this about Glass Onion, Knives Out too, is I have that as a potential should be on this list. I think it should be on this list. I'd be perfectly happy, Jeff, if you said, yeah, that's our number 10. I'd be perfectly happy with that. But I want to throw another movie out there that I think deserves to be on the list. Now, whether or not I think it actually will make the cut depends on whether the Academy can get past the sort of obstacle of them seeing it as an animated movie only, and that is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. That movie is a masterpiece. It is breathtaking. It is so emotionally powerful and full of imagination and daring filmmaking. And I just think it's worthy of a Best Picture nomination. So I asked the question to both of you: do you think it's possible that the Academy, and it does happen with like Toy Story 3, that the Academy will look past the animated feature of it all and actually give it the big one? Jeff,
I'll go to Perri first.
All right, Perri, what's your take?
I think other movies have a better chance.
Okay.
I would like to see it happen, and I'm not completely writing off the possibility that could happen. I happened to have just rewatched Pinocchio last night, and it's pretty damn magical.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Jeff?
No, I don't think it's going to get I started watching it yesterday. I'm halfway through Pinocchio, so I do want to finish it today.
How did you stop it?
Yeah, why would you stop a movie like that?
Pretty easily.
Oh, Jeff.
No respect for animation from you.
Yeah, you're right. No respect. Right.
Wait, Jeff, I have a question. What is your favorite animated movie of all time?
Toy Story, which is the greatest movie. It was easily the greatest animated movie, followed by The Lion King.
Okay. I respect those choices.
Let's see here. All right, so Perri, I'm leaning towards Glass Onion. But another movie I want to throw out there. Well, actually, 3 more that I just want to throw out. One of them is 13 Lives. The other is Nope, which landed on the AFI list. And the third is RRR.
So on my personal Gold Derby, my number 10 right now is RRR. I think that last, or at least on my list, the way it's structured over there, I think that the last slot is going to be something like that feels a little more out of left field and very not Academy-like. And people don't stop talking about RRR. And I get it now. What a wild film that I think is deserving of all the hype it's getting right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if it builds and winds up being a surprise nomination here.
I agree completely. I agree. It's an extraordinary film, and I think it's riding the wave. Like it has not peaked, but it is peaking because people are talking about it. Jeff, does RRR
see the numbers on how many people shut RRR off after 10 minutes?
So you don't think it makes?
Oh wow!
No.
All right. What about?
This is one of those annual cool bloggers love the movie, and now we're going to try to manifest our dreams. It happens every year. This isn't happening.
All right. Well,
the movie that we haven't talked about,
I would not rule it out. I would not rule out.
Really got a lot of steam over the last week or two is A Man Called Otto.
Oh, I thought that was fine. I liked it. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know if I liked it enough for
so either. But there was that talk, and then the movie that we haven't discussed is The Woman King.
The Woman King. There. Okay. Yes, exactly. There's a great one. Perri, what's your take?
If I were to include an 11 on my list right now, it would be The Woman King. I do really think that's got a real shot still.
Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, it has a shot. I thought it was good. I just don't know if it's gonna have. I don't know. I don't know if it'll have the passion. But you guys are totally dismissing my Empire of Light thing. I'm just like, where do the British votes go? Where do the British votes go this year?
I don't think. I think the British votes go to Tar. I do not think.
Banshees.
I don't think, or Banshees. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. I just don't think that. Yeah, I just don't think Empire of Light gets in. I just don't. But I think another movie that I think should get in, and I think it would have gotten in stronger if they had released it later during award season instead of back in August, is 13 Lives. I think that movie is amazing, based on an incredible true story. It's an inspiring film, and it's the movie making director Ron Howard. It's his best movie in a really, really long time. But does it get in? I mean, does it have a chance? Why aren't more people talking about 13 Lives as a Best Picture contender? Because it should be a contender.
Because of The Rescue, really. That's really it. If that was the first time that we'd seen that story on the big screen, I think it would get in, because I thought it was exceptional as well. But I don't know. Just seems like we saw this kind of done better last year or 2 years ago.
I think it was also like the limited enthusiasm upon release too. Like I wonder if I wasn't really paying all that much attention to it when it first came out, and I wonder if that had something to do with the promotional efforts. I can't really assess that because I wasn't looking out for promo, so I don't know what the marketing campaign was really like. But that movie feels like it came out and then it was gone. And I know Oscar talk is something different, but that is like the starting point. And if you don't make enough noise when you're released, then this is what's going to happen. And it feels like no one's talking about it. And again, I keep bringing up CCA nominations, but they were just released. I was involved. I have them on the brain. It didn't get any.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame, because if 13 Lives had gotten more of a theatrical release in the fall instead of, dropping on Amazon Prime over the summer, I think more people would be talking about it, because it deserves to be talked about. And when I saw it over the summer, I went to a press screening. I saw it in a theater instead of just watching it at home. And talk about an immersive film, no pun intended. Like the way they shot the film and the way that it really makes you feel the claustrophobia of being underwater in the caves was very, very, very effective. I think it's a triumph of a film, but people aren't talking about it.
So what's our 10?
So what's our 10? So you're saying nope to Nope, no to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, even though it should. So that leaves The Woman King and Glass Onion.
Glass Onion.
Woman King, dude. They're Glass Onion. You guys kidding me with this?
No,
that movie is widely beloved. Like that movie is the perfect example of a film that is like so incredibly favored and impossible to not like. That is exactly why it could push it into a Best Picture nomination.
Listen,
over my dead body.
We'll see.
Gee,
I mean, this feels like a bet.
Yeah, that does feel like a bet.
You want it?
Feel like a bet.
Yes, I do.
I'm going to tell you both.
I'm not betting.
If Glass Onion gets a nomination, Jeff, I keep your Scream poster.
That's worth it.
I'm just kidding. I'm not holding your Scream poster hostage.
I'm saving my bet for when it really, really, really counts, because I'm kind of good with that stuff. All right, so I'm going back and forth between The Woman King and Glass Onion to be our number 10. And I mean, I love them both. I think that Woman King is more of an epic film that deserves to be on the list. Geez, this is really tough.
I'd much rather have Woman King on than Glass Onion.
All right, I'm gonna go with The Woman King. Sorry, Perri. All right,
Fine.
So there it is. There it is. So our new 10 as of December 15th, 2022 for Best Picture. The predictions are Top Gun Maverick, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fablemans, The Banshees of Inisherin, Tar, Women Talking, Avatar, The Way of Water, and Babylon, Elvis and the Woman King. That is our new Best Picture list. That list could change the next time we go through our predictions for Best Picture, because we're going to do this again right before the nominations are announced. We're going to go through them all fast and furious. So keep an eye out for that. Let us know what you think of our second round of Best Picture predictions. Comment below. Make sure you share this episode of FYC on all of your social media platforms. And of course, make sure, if you have not done so, make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button on Perri Nemiroff's channel, which is making FYC possible. And of course, Perri has a ton of other great content that you have to see or you're missing out. So that's it for this episode of FYC. Until the next episode of FYC, see you later.